Tell us your name, and also we're here with the candidates for at the DC Candidates Forum sponsored by Teen Choice, and we'd like to know how you would address the crisis of HIV/AIDS in DC, family breakdown, and out-of-wedlock pregnancy.
Well, first of all, my name is Tom Brown, and I'm delighted to be here. I am the at-large candidate for the DC Council in the special election April 26th. And, quite simply, I think there are just 2 points to this. I think that we have to be intentional about the way we support education and awareness programs. I think that we've minimized the importance of continue to build the education and clarity of our citizens. My thing is, I think that we should look at the funding processes and also the research and development processes around deciding what's best for this city. I think there are many best practices all over the world. However, we want to look at the demographics that are most impacted. Then we want to start to look at how do we continue to minimize the epidemic from spreading into other areas. And we want to look at exactly what's been done in the past and take a look at all those different pieces of data and make a decision about how we want to proceed. Even if we're bringing in big businesses, I think this is an area that some of those CBAs should address. It's where we're leading the country. I think it's an area that we should address, especially in the areas that have the most challenges in this area. So I think that there's many ways that we can attack this, but I think it starts with support and revenue and resources and raising awareness and education, starting with the lowest levels on that.
Would you support specific funding that promotes sexual abstinence? Currently, you may know that there's no actual funding for that in DC.
I think that's a travesty. I think that is absolutely one of the ways that we help to impact the abstinence message. We have to empower the abstinence message and educators like yourself with the things they need to do to get the word out so that people can make an educated decision. And that's part of what's going on. Ignorance is playing a part in some of the decisions of our young people. We have to deal with that issue.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Thanks for being with us. Okay, well, I'll ask a question, I guess. We're here at the Candidates Forum for At-Large Council, sponsored by Teen Choice, and so we'd like you to ask you to introduce yourself and tell us how you'll address the crisis of HIV/AIDS, out-of-wedlock births, and also family breakdown in DC.
Okay. Again, my name is Alan Page. I'm running for At-Large City Council. The election's April 26th. And basically to address the HIV epidemic that we're facing in the city, and I call it an epidemic because basically 3% of our population is HIV infected. We need to have a comprehensive approach that includes the advocating for the use of condoms, basically having a more comprehensive needle exchange program. We just lost Needleworks, which basically serviced about 40% of the needle exchange in the city. We need to have abstinence programs that encourage young people and even older people on the use of abstinence as an HIV prevention strategy, because it's 100% successful, except in the case of blood transfusions and other situations like that. But it's a very successful HIV prevention strategy, so that should be encouraged. I'm really in favor of just a multi-tiered approach. We've got some of the best universities in the country here. We need to get the brains of those people on how we can reduce our HIV transmission in the district, and we just need to really have public-private partnerships and just all work together and be on one accord to just fight HIV in the district. We can beat this.
Okay, so I heard you saying you would actually support funding for programs that teach abstinence directively, and that means they focus on that versus teaching, including condoms especially.
I'm for a comprehensive system. I'll be honest with you. I look at it the way my parents taught me. Okay, my parents weren't teaching me to go out and in high school, hey son, go out there and sow your royal oats. I mean, they were teaching me, hey, we don't really want you to engage in sex, but if you are out there engaging in sex, then you have to protect yourself. And so, I mean, I wasn't Don Juan in high school, so that wasn't much of a problem for my parents. But I do think we have to be realistic about the issue, and there are certain people who are going to engage in sexual behavior. And if they are going to engage in sexual behavior, we need them to be safe, because if we ignore that part of the population, then they're going to be out here transmitting HIV, and they're going to be out here having teen pregnancies and things of that nature, and that's going to have an adverse effect on our city. So we really just need to look at the issue holistically. I do support including abstinence in those comprehensive programs because I think it's a key prevention strategy, and it's to be respected. It's obviously, as far as pregnancy goes, it's 100% effective because if you're abstinent, you as a teenager, you're not going to get pregnant. But I'm also aware that there's a sizable proportion of the population that's sexually active. They're not responsive to abstinence as an option. And if they're not responsive to that, we've got to get them to protect themselves.
Okay, thank you very much for taking time and coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're here at the at-large candidates forum sponsored by Alter Teen Choice. And so we'd like to introduce yourself and tell us how you'll address the crisis of HIV, out-of-wedlock pregnancy, and family breakdown in D.C.
Wow, those are three. My name is Brian Weaver, one of the candidates for the at-large race. I think that as far as HIV, I think it has to be a sort of all-encompassing program that we look at. I think if you looked at the amount of waste that we've had in all of the HIV prevention initiatives that the city has done, I mean, essentially we're looking over a 10-year period of wasting hundreds of millions of dollars to programs that weren't particularly successful, and oftentimes were fraught with fraud. What I would suggest is this, that we need to have a bit more of a holistic approach to how we fight HIV. Prevention is definitely one of the calling cards. I think that there is space within funding to look for abstinence programs within schools, but we also have to get far more aggressive about public relations, because the two most significant population increases that we've seen in the district tend to be heterosexual women of color, mostly around Hispanic and African American women. And most of them don't view HIV as their crisis. And I think we really have to find better connections at every level. If it means going into churches, we should go into churches. If it means going into social clubs, we can go into social clubs. I said earlier, from the PR campaign, known from the press to the pulpit to the beauty salons, every single level of the city, we need to have an HIV awareness campaign. As far as breakdowns of the family, I'm asking the million-dollar question. I mean, so many things, whether it's education reform, youth violence, HIV awareness. The fundamental breakdown of families ends up contributing greatly to all of these things. The best way for a kid to be ahead in education is to have books and have a parent who's reading to them at home. And many non-traditional settings in the district, we have a high increase of single-parent households. A lot of times grandparents are taking the place of parents. What's really important, though, is that actually we have a base where people are reading to a kid at night, where someone is monitoring that kid's educational path. There's no way you can legislate parenting. And so I think what the district really has to do is, for parents who don't do their job, one, you want to give them as many tools, many surround services as possible. But when they fail their basic instincts as a parent, there have to be some sort of penalties around that. And so if it means parenting school, or it means that you serve detention with your child, I think you have to really sort of look at that.
Okay,
Was there
thank
anything
you.
else? Was there...
Well, so I heard you say you would support funding for programs that teach abstinence directively. In other words, there was a study came out recently that said, programs that what are commonly called abstinence programs, because they focus on that and don't include condom component, they are effective. Would you support that as part of the programs that are offered?
Like I said, I think that when you're looking at this population, when you're looking at preventive, it's the same thing in any sort of form of preventive medicine. You want to look at every possible corridor. And so if I may disagree with a religious organization's philosophy on something, but I realize that they have better connections to a community, I would totally want to build a partnership with them to try to reach into that community. If abstinence works within schools, and obviously I think that to a certain segment of the population it will, you want to have funding available to that. Now, I don't think it's one against the other. I don't think that you want to go away from distributing condoms or needle exchange programs, because you're dealing with a different population. If people were able to, at that level, were being reached by abstinence programs, I think that they probably are dealing with a lot deeper, more profound problems when you're talking about needle exchange programs. Condoms, I think that are, it's a sad state, but if you look at it, you're talking about 70% of the population of teens are sexually active before the age of 19. So I think that for that current demographic, you have to reach out and want to talk to them and find a way. I'm willing to try every angle because it's a crisis. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's a severe crisis.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
That's good.